the discriminant. So let's have a look at a few graphs. This parabola, this parabola, and this parabola. What do you notice about them? If you notice that this one cut the x-axis twice, this one's touching it only once, and this one is not touching it at all, well done. Now, what's the significance of this? Well, these are the x-intercepts. So this one has two x-intercepts, this one has one x-intercept, and this one has no x-intercepts. Now, what are x-intercepts? To find an x-intercept, that's when you make y equal to 0 and then solve your equation for x. So if we have two x-intercepts, that means we have two solutions for x in our quadratic equation. If we have one x-intercept, that means we only have one solution to our quadratic equation. And if we have no x-intercepts, that means we have no solutions to our quadratic equation. So let's look at how to find a solution to a quadratic equation. We use the quadratic formula. Minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This gives us solutions. How could we get no solutions to the quadratic equation? Well, let's have a look. To get no solutions, what happens if inside the square root here we had a negative value? Well, if it was negative, we'd have the square root of a negative, which we can't have, and this would give us no solutions and no x-intercepts. If inside here we had 0, the square root of 0 is 0, and we'd have nothing to add or subtract, and the only answer would be minus b over 2a, and it would only give us one solution. But if this number was any positive number, we'd have something to add or subtract, and we get two solutions to the quadratic equation and two x-intercepts. So all these scenarios depend heavily on this value here, and that's what we call the discriminant. We give it a symbol delta, which is a Greek letter, and it equals b squared minus 4ac. And it's going to tell us a lot about our quadratic equation. So if delta is greater than 0, we have two solutions. If delta equals 0, we're only going to have one solution. And if delta is less than 0, we're going to have 0 solutions. And another word for solutions is x-intercepts. We also get a few more things we can define with delta. So if delta is greater than or equal to 0, we can say we have real solutions as well. So whereas these ones, we get complex numbers. So both of these give us real numbers. If delta is a perfect square, we get rational solutions. So think about it, rational. So if delta is a perfect square, so if inside here we have a perfect square and we square root it, we get nice numbers. So we get rational solutions, which means if delta is not a perfect square, should say perfect square, we get irrational solutions. So that's when we have something like when we get 5 in here, we have the square root of 5, which is an irrational number, and we get irrational solutions. Let's have a look at some examples. So how many solutions does this quadratic equation have? X squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 6, and C equals 9. So let's just find the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac. This will tell us how many solutions we're going to have based on its value. So we're going to get 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9. So we'll get 36 minus 4 times 1 times 9 is 36. And we get 0. When the discriminant equals 0, that's when you have one solution. What about 2x squared minus 3x plus 4 equals 0? Well, a is equal to 2, b is equal to minus 3, and c is equal to 4. So let's find the discriminant. So we're going to have b squared, so minus 3 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 4. So we're going to get 9 minus 4 times 4 is 16, times 2 is 32. So we're going to get minus 23. And because it's negative, we're going to have 0 solutions for our equation.